This isn't just logistics, it's emotional. Like you're making fast decisions with incomplete information while trying to protect your family and also still show up for your professional responsibilities.
You're listening to the Blue Skies Leadership Podcast, featuring discussions with international school leaders about the future of education. The podcast embodies the spirit of reciprocity by sharing strategies and change initiatives from leading schools around the world. Here are your hosts, Dan Kerr and Daniel Mendes.
Welcome, everybody. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're deviating from our regular format to kind of talk in the moment about leadership during crisis in the Middle East, with the Iran, U.S., Israel war unfolding all over the region. So today we're going to have a conversation with my co-host, Daniel Mendes, about what he is doing, what his family's doing, what's happening at the American School of Doha, and international schools in the Middle East, and what are they experiencing during the Iran war. So Dan, I know you're living this, man. How's it going?
We're doing very well, Dan. Thanks for asking. And it's been a tough time, but at the same time, I'm very full of gratitude that we're safe. We are in Greece. A lot has happened in the last 3 weeks. A lot of people have helped along the way. I just want people to understand, our listeners to understand, this is not a political episode. This is a leadership episode. It's about what it takes to take care of a community and keep learning, moving on when the ground is unstable. Like, there's a lot of people that I need to thank throughout this episode.
So to give some context, can you sort of tell us what life has looked like at the American School of Doha over the last few weeks?
Yeah, and this all started on February 28th when U.S. attacked Iran and things became very uncertain. Luckily, we were on a weekend and we had some time to kind of prepare ourselves. But ASD's been operating on a high uncertainty environment. Like, family and staff now have been dispersed across countries. Some people have stayed, some people have chosen to leave, but people are managing travel, time zones, safety concerns, and the emotional weight of what's happening in the region. At the same time, we're still a school and kids still need learning and routines, feedback, connections, and adults who are steady. And I've seen a lot of that this last 3 weeks, and I just want to share that with you.
Wow. When you say steady, what does that mean, like on a Tuesday morning, for example? Like, what does steady look like?
It means that we can't promise certainty, but we can promise coherence. That's a big one. People need to know what matters and what happens next and how to contribute to today. And that's huge. A lot of people have stepped up and showed those leadership skills for our community. I
know it's important for you to name some names and to really give some gratitude where it is needed and deserved. So who are the people at ASD you want to acknowledge in this episode?
Well, first and foremost, the admin team, Dr. Victor Guthrie and Dave Finney, who's head of operations and security, my wife, Jennifer Mendes, John Meyer, Heather Vlock, Dr. Josh Almy, Tracy Murphy, Director of Students and Support Services, and the rest of the lower and upper elementary admin team who have been making high-stake decisions very quickly, communicating with care and holding the line for the community. We've been very fortunate that people have stepped up.
Well, I know a lot of those names, and one that jumps out for me, obviously, is your wife, Jen. But Tracy Murphy and I worked together for a long time. Her and Rob Girton are good friends of ours. And seeing her name kind of brings a smile to my face. They've
really kept the student voice. They're the advocates for the students. So a little shout out for Tracy. I'm sure she's going to listen to this episode. So
I love that.
It just becomes less about having the perfect plan and more about making the next best decision, communicating it clearly, and building the trust through consistency. These individuals have really helped to keep our community calm, safe, and knowing what's the next step.
What have you noticed about leadership when it's actually under pressure?
Devin Pratt, for episode 14, it's really helped me to center myself. It's about the relationships that you currently have, and it's about communicating clearly and coherently and being consistent.
Well, listen, you personally experienced evacuation with your family and displacement. Can you tell us that story? Are you able to tell us a little bit about how it went down for you and your family?
It's a little bit surreal. We packed up our bags literally after the bombs went off when we were about to record Nick's episode. Jennifer and I just looked at each other and we needed to feel safe so that we could support others. And basically what we did was we packed up our car and we drove to Saudi Arabia. That was our only opportunity because UAE and Qatar, their airspaces were closed, still closed for the most part.
Yeah.
And Riyadh was still open, as well as Oman. But we thought that Riyadh was closer, so we fled there. And we were very, very lucky, because I just want to pause here and say something important. When you're in that moment, you don't remember the technical details as much as you remember the human ones. And we were received by the American International School of Riyadh, and they opened their homes to us. And the leadership there, Colin Boudreau and Jackie Whitney and some of the other ones that were there, and the families who opened up their homes, made us feel safe and comfortable. The Godbouts, the Gregsons, and so many others. ASR has a remarkable community, and they modeled what international schools can be at their best, a network of care that, activates instantly. Like, they were just super helpful, and I can't thank them enough.
We love Colin Boudreau. We've known him a long time, and he's what good looks like, what great looks like, actually, and he's an amazing head of school. We're going to have him as a guest here on our show at some point. Was there a moment when you thought, okay, we're safe now? Like, was there a specific moment where there's changed from that level of anxiety and trepidation to like, okay, this is going to be all right?
When we first got to Riyadh, it was calm there, and basically we slept one night and then we woke up, and then someone mentioned that, hey, the U.S. ambassador in Saudi Arabia, there's an opportunity to listen to them and hear about what's going on, and reassuring ourselves. We listened. She gave some very good advice. It helped regulate everyone's nervous system. But then the next day, there was fresh bombings by Iran. Tensions spiked in Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. State Department raised their threat level. So all of a sudden, now we went from Doha, where the bombs were going off daily, at least twice daily. Now Riyadh was starting to experience some of that, and we just kind of felt like this nervous tension again. And so we ended up staying there for about 2 more days. In fact, Jennifer had an assembly that morning before we left, and it was just her reassuring the students that we were going to continue on, we were going to move forward with learning. It was just a crazy moment.
And then you left Riyadh?
We were advised to evacuate to Greece. And this isn't just logistics, it's emotional. Like, you're making fast decisions with incomplete information while trying to protect your family and also still show up for your professional responsibilities. Luckily, we were going in to eat. The school went asynchronously, just so that it gave people the flexibility to do the learning at their own time, at their own pace, wherever they could. We also had that same flexibility as teachers to be able to evacuate, move. We just had to post our learning that evening. And of course, in my role, I just needed to be there to help support teachers.
I know you mentioned Devin Pratt already earlier in the show, but this is really connecting me to that episode when Devin was talking about how relationships are what make leadership sustainable. So
right.
What did that experience teach you with regards to relationships and leadership?
It made it real. Relationships are not a nice add-on. They're really infrastructure. They're key. In crisis, the plan can fail, the calendar can fail, the flight can cancel, the system can break. What holds is the network of people. If you want resilience, you don't build it only through procedures, you build it through belonging. And we've been very fortunate, you and I, to meet people who have told us that belonging and relationships are the key to a healthy organization.
Wow, man. What a story. Let's move on from story just quickly and let's talk about guidance. So what are the core leadership moves you've seen that are working at ASD right now? There's a couple that you want to talk about?
So there's 3. You got to replace certainty with coherence, like make sure that everybody is on the same page, what we're doing, how we're doing it. Right down from leadership all the way down to the students. Students need to know what's the expectation. Teachers need to be able to provide those expectations for them. But we can't promise certainty, but we can provide a coherent way of operating. And then the second one is cadence is emotional regulation at scale. Like, schedule and routine are not just operational, they calm people down because they can reduce decision fatigue. Like, for example, when we chose to go to asynchronous, we were saying we're going to do this for about a week. And giving people that context that we're going to do this for a week and then we're going to reevaluate it. And then we gave people time to get ready for synchronous learning. And we trialed that before Eid break. After our spring break, they're clear on the fact that we're going back to synchronous learning and just being that coherent. And then also freedom within a framework. While we need to provide the structure, we need to give people the tight and the loose of what can be done. So the tight might be the core expectations, a consistent engagement check with students, like students need to be connecting with their learning management system or checking in on every single class, a communication rhythm. So knowing when admin is going to be communicating certain things, maybe it's daily, maybe it's every other day, but as long as they're consistent, and then a shared set of priorities. The loose can be how teams implement it in the sense of what formats and pacing, because people are living in different realities right now, both the students and the teachers. Some are in the midst of traveling back home. Others are like me in different countries waiting to see what's going to happen.
So why do you think this tight versus loose, why does that matter so much in the context of crisis, do you think?
Because without it, you either get chaos or control. Chaos burns people out and control breaks trust and ignores context. The middle path is coherence, so tight where it might be tight and loose where it can be loose. So giving people that freedom. And that was a big one that I've learned from Devin's episode. So
yeah, in that episode, he was talking about how the crisis manual can become useless in a lot of ways. And what really matters is the process. So how did that show up for you guys?
Exactly. We started to implement the communication protocol that we had. And then we quickly realized that because people were leaving the country and people were allowed to leave the country, those manuals and those processes broke down very quickly. But one idea that I love from Devin is that communication becomes a mirror. Before we send something, we ask, are we addressing the right groups? Are we clear? What action do we need people to take next? And what emotion will this message create? Literally, when bombs are going off or intercepted above, I just want to be clear with our audience that we were safe. The only thing that we were worried about when these bombs get intercepted, that debris could fall on us. But
sure,
that didn't happen for us, and luckily it was far away from where we were at. To me, the big thing there was communication was clear. So these bombs were going off, and we were supposed to have a faculty meeting, an all-school faculty meeting in 10 minutes. And these bombs are going off, and you're like scared, and what's going on? And do we continue to have this faculty meeting or do we postpone it? And Victor Guthrie, he said, no, we got to keep going. We've got to reassure that we've got this, that we're in control. And I got to say that the faculty really appreciated the fact that we continued on, even though that these bombs were being intercepted above us, and they were scary,
Sure.
My daughter was crying and my son was asking what's going on and all that kind of stuff.
Freaked
And
out probably.
there's just a whole bunch of chaos going on.
And I love that you're talking about that and so many great leadership lessons. Is there any a communication mistake that leaders might make in these moments? That I'm not saying that any mistakes were made with you guys, but can you see a mistake that might be made by somebody in moments like these?
I think it's the fact of not communicating consistently. I know that there are a lot of meetings that are happening at the admin level, and the optics of knowing that people are meeting to discuss things and then not communicating to people after those meetings are happening. I think that that's huge. I think people need to know that they're going to have communication. And I love when leaders say, this is what we know, staying with the facts and making sure, reassuring people that we've got this, we've got the community's best interest at heart, and we just want to make sure that you are well aware of what your responsibilities are, what we're concerned about everybody's safety, but we need to continue moving forward with the learning.
Wow. Well, okay, listen, so speaking of learning, and your job in particular, so you're the tech integration innovation coach there.
Right.
For you, let's just talk to us a little bit about what's been the hardest sort of intersection of technology and leadership throughout this crisis.
Yeah, and it was a problem before the crisis, and it's really assessment and evidence of learning. It's especially now with AI. My job is even more difficult helping teachers navigate the world of AI. And because we're not in person, the technical tools are important, but the real leadership question is ethical. How do we keep things credible and fair when students are scattered, stressed, and learning conditions are unequal? And then on top of that, add the AI, and it's a lot. The leadership move is to rethink what counts as evidence. So what we did was we said, let's look at focusing on essential learning, what is important, make room for performance-based demonstrations, have the kids create presentations, have them demonstrate what they've learned, just like what Richard Berner said on our episode about evidence of learning. Have the students show you what they've learned, and then have multiple smaller data points. Let's take these old traditional assessments of 10-page unit assessments that we all know are very old and traditional, and let's try to make them into smaller data points so we're not staking everything on one high stakes assessment.
Yeah, and what about for listeners who aren't educators? You got any thoughts for them?
This applies to everyone. Your metrics in normal times might become misleading in a crisis. Like, the leadership move is to redesign measurement to fit reality without abandoning your values. Like, look, when bombs are going off, you really need to ask, what's the most important? And for me, it's relationships. It's making sure that people are safe, they're seen and heard, and then continue on with the learning. Those are the base foundations for this. So continue operating. For those people that are not educators that are listening to this, just continue operating, but make sure that you've made time for people to be seen, heard.
You got a lot going on over there. We're not going to keep you for too much longer, but just for you, if there's school leaders out there listening right now, and there are, from different parts of the world, maybe even in a different crisis, what do you want them to take away? There's some takeaways that you want to share with our listeners?
To me, it's relationships are the infrastructure. I can't thank the people that have kept the relationships strong within our community. And then with AISR, their relationships with us, I will never forget that. It's key. You got to invest in trust before you need it and protect it when you do. Trade certainty for coherence, like I said earlier. Make sure that you provide the structure of tight and loose. Make sure that you stabilize the community and say, this is what we're going to do for this week. This is what we're going to do for next week. Be prepared for this. Here's the expectations. And just make sure you build a process that you can repeat. In crisis, process beats heroics. So let's just make sure that you go through a process of communicating what's your process for learning. Make sure that you have that and be consistent about that. But I just want to end with gratitude to the ASD leadership, the community, to ASR for their care and how they showed us and when we needed it. And then people like you, Dan, who've reached out. I know I haven't been as responsive as I can, but a lot of people have reached out to us over WhatsApp and Facebook, thinking of us, just checking in with us. Those are the little drops in the bucket for relationships and belonging that we need right now. Just making sure that we are safe and that we are thought of, and it just makes it that much better of a situation. We've met up with a lot of people that are in our similar situation. There's a lot of teachers that are here as well. Thank you, Dan, for giving me the opportunity to reflect on this, because it's really, even in this moment, I'm feeling a little bit more relieved and calm and wanting to move forward. It can be very trying, like every single decision. Where are we going to move to next? What does the next week look like for our family? Where are we going to sleep tonight? Where are we going to eat tonight? As much as that is fun on a vacation, when you don't know where the end of this vacation is, that can be difficult to handle.
It must be so surreal in so many ways. And listen, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you got a lot going on. This is the last thing that's probably on your mind. So for you to give time and to share these kind of strategies and takeaways and leadership moves with our listeners has been really important, and I want to thank you for sort of taping this special episode, the In the Moment episode of Blue Sky's Leadership Podcast. It certainly is in the moment and ever changing for you and for a lot of people in the region. And listeners, if this has helped you, please share it with someone leading through difficult times. I think a lot of this can be helpful and maybe cathartic in some ways. And Daniel, listen, I love you, brother. I wish I was there giving you hugs. I know you're safe now with your family. I'm just going to be thinking about you all the time. And please say hi to your family and keep us updated. And we love you. And thanks for taking the time.
The same goes for you, Dan. And I got to tell you, you just gave me a hug by allowing me to talk with our audience over the podcast. I hope that I've helped someone else through this difficult time, and hopefully that our listeners appreciate this. Look, I'm doing this podcast during a war. To me, the podcast is not for fame. I have a great time just having conversations with you, but with our guests. And it's the best professional development. It's the best emotional lift I get by speaking with these wonderful people, them sharing their blue skies leadership with us and with our audience. This is a very cathartic experience. If you've never done a podcast, I ask you to reach out. If you want to be on our podcast, I love it. It's just great to see the humanity in people. I want to thank you, Dan, for all the work that you do, the example that you are for your community, for the world, and thank you.
Well, I love you, brother. We'll be in touch soon. Here's to an episode that isn't so triggering and traumatizing in the future. So we'll talk soon, my friend. Be well.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Skies Leadership Podcast. Do you know a specific leader who would be a great guest? Fill out all the details at blueskiesleadership.com.